Super Rugby Round 5 Saturday games. Actually, one of these is a Friday game. Somebody pointed it out in the comments of my Friday video. Stormers Highlanders is a Friday game. I'm not used to South African games being hosted on a Friday, but actually this one works out really well in terms of time zones for New Zealand. It's on at like 6 in the morning. So I don't have to get up at an ungodly hour to watch this one. So looking forward to that. I will start with this Friday game, seeing as that is the first of the bunch. The Stormers, who are hosting the Highlanders. Now the Stormers are coming off a bye, so they should be well rested. They had a pretty shocking first week and then seem to have come good. Guys who have been watching their games closer than I have said they've had interesting relationships with the refs. Not to say anything untoward is going on there, but just to say that at least their rivals are saying that they've been fortunate with the way the whistle has been blown in their games. So I suppose this will kind of be a test of whether that's true or whether they are legitimately kind of coming good under Robbie Fleck. But yeah, they are coming off a bye, so there is a risk of a bit of rust, but in theory they should be raring to go. The Highlanders, on the other hand, don't travel well in South Africa. They lost last week. They're playing essentially on a short turnaround. I think it's a 6-day turnaround because it is a Friday game coming from a weekend game, so they are that day short of rest. So this may be a chance for the Stormers to kind of capitalize on that, although this one's not at altitude, so they won't have those same issues they had last week. That's the Highlanders. So in terms of the Stormers, you got Lades at 15, so he is back. Damien Delende and Dan du Plessis in the midfield. Jean-Luc du Plessis is still preferred as the number 10. Damien Willemse is relegated to the bench for this one. Intubeni is preferred over Mbanambi at hooker. And Augustus is at number 8, so it's going to be good to see how that guy goes because he is a guy with apparently kind of bags of potential. For the Highlanders, they've made 9 changes. So still a fair few guys in their normal positions, but Moyano starts on the wing this time. Delgi is there. I thought I'd read that Boffelli was in, but perhaps Boffelli is out because I can't see him in the lineup. So he's a pretty big name to be missing. He was one of their most outstanding players last year, although Lavanini and Petty still continue in the second row. It's Kubeli and Bonisia in the 9 and 10 jerseys kind of running the show. So hopefully the Highlanders put up a bit of a fight because, as I said, they don't traditionally travel that well in South Africa, but being in the South African Conference, it's going to be something they have to figure out sooner or later. So I suppose we'll see if this one is the real deal. The bookies have got the Stormers by 8, so fairly comfortable favourites for that Friday game. Hopefully it's a good game either way. The next one, and moving into actual Saturday games, it's the early one between the Sunwolves and the Reds. The Sunwolves, the only one of the two teams to have actually had a win so far. A very exceptional win over the Chiefs, although the Chiefs this year are looking poor. So yeah, the Reds, they're none from 3. They haven't looked terrible. But they still need to come good and actually get a win at some point. Perhaps this is their chance to do it against the Sunwolves, although the reverse fixture, or this same fixture last year, didn't go well for the Reds. I mean, the Reds managed to beat them in Queensland, but when they went to Japan last year, they got a proper hiding. So we'll see if history has anything to say about this one. The Sunwolves have made a few changes. It's good to see Hayden Parker starting back at 10. Nothing against Matsuda, but Hayden Parker has just been impressive from what we've seen of him so far. Salmaki is back on the wing, and he is an impressive ball runner, so I'm looking forward to seeing him in action. Van den Heever is still there. Emery is back to fullback. Jamie Booth's been impressive. He's still at 9. So, yeah. I'm hoping that they... oh, Amanaki Mafi's on the bench. I was looking for his name because I knew they'd signed him. Amanaki Mafi, if you're not familiar with him, played for the Rebels last year. One of the most dynamic number 8s. Had a bit of a poor end to the year with some off-field drama with a bit of an assault thing that happened in Dunedin. But yeah, he was like the top meter getter, and he's a number 8. Everyone else was a back. So he is an absolutely outstanding player. So we'll see how he goes. For the Reds, they've gone with Hamish Stewart, a fullback for this one. They've got Faiwai Sautia on one wing, Naivalu on the other, so that's good. Isaac Lucas gets a start at 10, so this is their third 10 that they've played, so that's still a position which seems up for grabs with the Reds. Sorovi is definitely the preferred 9. No sign of James Tuttle at all. I'm not sure if he's injured or just not preferred. Front row of JP Smith, Murphy, and Ryan Smith, so that continues to rotate as well. He doesn't seem to have a set preference for his players, old Brad Thorne. So yeah, they could certainly use a feel-good win, because 9-3 is not ideal. But as I said, with the Reds, they haven't been that far off the pace. They haven't been terrible. They've just been beaten every game. So yeah, we'll see how that one goes. I'm kind of not sure who to root for in that one, because I traditionally like going for an underdog, but in this case they seem to both kind of be underdogs. So I guess we'll watch it with interest and just hope it's a good game either way. The next one, the Highlanders and the Crusaders, and I try to be fairly down the middle in this channel, but I'm definitely going for the Highlanders for this one in terms of where I would like to see a result go. Just for the competition, man, because the Crusaders just win, and I don't mean to rag on them, but you guys win a lot, and let somebody else have a turn. At least give us the idea that you guys are mortal this year and are not going to just run away with the whole thing, because at this point they clearly look a cut above everyone else, and I include the Rebels, who are also undefeated. So the Crusaders look the real deal. Playing the Highlanders in Dunedin is tough. Even for the Crusaders, they did lose this game last year, so they will be looking to turn that one around, I suppose, to get a bit of revenge, because they only lost 2 games last year, and one of them was the Highlanders away, so they'll be looking to prove a point. The Highlanders haven't been... like, they started well, and then they've kind of fallen away a bit, but they're having to manage All Blacks rotations as well. They perhaps don't have the same depth as the Crusaders. Nobody really does. So when they do rest guys like Ben Smith, Aaron Smith, it probably affects them more than the Crusaders. But as I said, that's just the Crusaders. So yeah, no surprises that the Highlanders are playing a lot of their big guns in this one. So Naholo starting, Ben Smith starting, Whitelock starting, Aaron Smith. Josh Ioane is preferred at number 10 with Marty Banks again on the bench. So there's no signs of Bryn Gatland. He's only had the one run, really. Frizzell's playing, and he's been in great form. Tyrell Max Coltman and Aiden Johnston will have their work cut out, but hey, it's a decent Highlanders team and at home. Let's hope they can at least give the Crusaders a run for their money, because, yeah, it's been the Blues thus far that have been the only ones to really do that. Who would have thought that at the start of the season? For the Crusaders, again, you look at this: Bryn Hall, Moonga, George Bridge, Crotty, Goodhue, Enor, and David Havili. I mean, Enor hasn't played for the All Blacks. Has Bryn Hall been capped? Either way, that's a pretty darn good looking backline. For the forwards, I suppose there is like a little bit like George Bauer. Like, is he the weakness in this lineup? I mean, you've got Owen Franks, Cody Taylor, Scott Barrett, Sam Whitelock, Jordan Taufua, Matt Todd, Fetu Douglas. Most of them are All Blacks as well. So, Crusaders are going to be tough. I forgot to mention for the previous game, it's the Sunwolves by 4 that the bookies say. For this one, the Crusaders, it's the Crusaders by 7. So, as a fan, would you take Crusaders by 7 and say that's a good game? At least it's close. Either way, we will see. Last one, Lions against the Rebels. And this one's a good a good test to see where the Rebels are at, I suppose. Like, someone put a comment on my power rankings video when I dropped the Rebels below a couple of teams who had a loss, kind of saying, how can you put a team who's had a loss above the Rebels who've had wins? Yeah, the Rebels have been getting wins, but none of them really convincing. Like, they've beaten the Brumbies twice. One of them, they only beat them by a few points, and that was at home. And they really struggled in the first half of that game. They beat a weakened Highlanders team just, so I'm not convinced the Rebels are the real deal. I'm quite happy for them to prove me wrong and go on a massive run. But, as I said, not convinced. So, the Lions, also in terms of not being convinced, they haven't convinced anyone yet that they are the same team as they were over the last few seasons as well. I mean, you feel like some guys, like perhaps Malcolm Marx, isn't able to have that same impact that he's had in recent years. He's been captain for this season, so perhaps that's adding a wee bit of pressure on him. I don't know, some guys it tends to, but I mean, some of the guys have still been standout. Like Schoeman has been fantastic. Quagga Smith seems to have been in good form, so I am keen to see this guy Similani in action. He is in the midfield for this one. He had a blockbusting game last week. Skorsan's still there. Yankees still running the show at 10. Ross Cronier. Sadi and Smith have been top class, I suppose, in terms of replacing the guys who left at the end of last year. So, yeah, it hasn't all fallen apart in terms of their front row, which has always been strong. So, yeah, they do seem to be mixing things up a bit and playing some younger guys. I'm all for that. Sometimes when the older guys go to Europe, you need to bring in some fresh blood, and that can be just what you need to get your season going. So, for the Rebels, Dane Halabidi's captain at 15. Guinea and Cooper continue at 9 and 10. Likewise, Meeks and English at 12 and 13. Interestingly, for this one, Reece Hodge is on the left wing. He's been kind of that super cover for the back line the last couple of weeks on the bench, covering half the back line positions, but this week they have gone with 3 backs in Ruru, Tuipulotu and Korobedi. So Korobedi doesn't get a start. Perhaps his defence is being questioned, and they're putting Hodge in there with that kind of background he's got, playing other positions to maybe cover that a bit better. I don't know. But I do know that Faulkner, Rangi and Talakai will need to stand up, because the Lions forward pack is going to be tough, and that is one area you would say that the Rebels perhaps don't dominate games. As much as Cooper and Guinea can throw amazing passes, their guys are going to need to win them some ball at scrum time. So yeah, the Lions by 8 are what the bookies say for that one, so giving them kind of one of the bigger margins of these 4 games. But what do you guys think for this 1 Friday and 3 Saturday games? Do you think the home teams will be able to hold? Obviously, the Crusaders are the pretty heavy favourites for their game, but all the other ones, the bookies are favouring the home teams. What do you guys reckon? You guys let me know your thoughts, and I will talk to you again soon. See you later.